Hello. On this episode of the Inventive Marketing Club, we're going to be looking at the WP Code plugin. Now, this allows you to easily manage and implement little bits of code that you might want to add into your site. A really good example of this are tracking bits of script, JavaScript that you want to add in. We're always being asked by clients to add these little scripts into the site, and often one of the ways of doing it is actually diving into some of the theme files and editing the PHP. Using this plugin is an easy way for not only us, but also the clients to manage that themselves, especially if things are a little bit locked down. So it's a really good plugin. What I'm going to do is just go through a little bit of walkthrough, some common examples, and have a bit of fun. I will also mention that one of our previous videos that will complement this is IMC episode 90. It's all about hacking your website, HTML and CSS style sheets. Get around limitations in the theme and basically make the website your own, even if the theme or developer, original developer, doesn't quite allow those things. So that's a really exciting one to dive into. We're going to start on our test site, and I'm going to take it into the back end to explore the plugin. Now, I've already preloaded this, but if you don't have it, it is a free plugin. You can just go to your plugins directory here, and if you have the ability, you can just install it. And it's just search for WP Code Snippets, and it will come up, and it is completely free. There is a pro version. I'm not going to demo that today. In fact, I don't use that. I don't have a need for it yet, but I recommend looking at it if there's some features that you require. So I've just clicked onto the code snippet section on the left-hand side of the menu, and we're presented with, by default, two sort of example snippets that they've got in here in their little dashboard. Now this menu will look familiar to anyone who's used to using WordPress, but it's basically a list of all the snippets that are within the database. So a couple of little examples here that they've got. One is to completely disable comments, and another is to display a message after the first paragraph of the post, which is quite an interesting thing to do and actually would require a little bit of PHP script to do that. So let's just have a look at the samples and see how well they work. So the first one, completely disable comments. If I just go to the public side of our site, I'll just bring that up in a new tab. And we go to news and go into one of the blog posts. So I can see here, by default, WordPress has this comment section on there. Now, most of our websites, we don't use this at all. So we might want to remove that because often you can get a lot of spam comments through that. And if you don't have comments, it seems silly to leave that box on there. Now, this has a little snippet to get rid of that, sort of disable it. So if I go back here and I turn that on, so I can just use this little slider to enable it, it should, if I refresh the page, it will have deactivated comments and said now comments are closed. Now, that's great, but unfortunately, I don't want that message there. I want to get rid of it. So what this plugin doesn't do here, this little snippet of code doesn't do, is actually allow us to get rid of it completely. I want to get rid of this little section up here and get rid of the little comment section. Now, I could go into CSS, have a look here. And we've got a little class, and if we go back to our episode 90, we can use a bit of CSS in the custom CSS to actually look for the no comments class, and then we can effectively hide that so it won't be seen. So at least on the front end, no one will see it. However, we've got this little section here. I've actually made a separate plugin that we use for all of our sites to add that on. So clients will be might be familiar with seeing that, and it cleans everything off completely. But this is a great start if you just wanted to remove that. Let's have a little look and see how that works. Let's go into edit. And this is actually a little bit of PHP script. So if you wanted to tweak and change this, you could dive in here. Obviously not for the faint of heart. If you aren't used to PHP, you might be a bit wary as to seeing all this code, because technically it could break your site. You could do something in here that could actually stop your site from working. What I have found, though, is that WP Code seems to be quite good at preventing you to make stupid mistakes that might actually break things. So it's got a little bit of protection, but I still think that if you're going to dive into certainly the PHP side of it, you just want to make sure maybe you're testing it on a staging site first. However, a really simple way to include quite a bit of code on there that normally you'd have to apply directly in the theme file or child theme itself. Let's go back out and have a look at the other one. So So I'll disable that for now. This one's quite interesting. So display a message after the first paragraph of post. Let's see what that looks like. So if we turn that on, so we'll go into the post here. Now we can see it. So we've got the first paragraph, and then it's actually inserted this little bit of text in there. Now, to prove that wasn't in there to begin with, I'm going to go in there, deactivate this little snippet, update, and then refresh, and it will disappear. So this could be quite useful if you wanted a little message in there, and like it says, to subscribe. Obviously, you need to add a little bit of HTML in there to add a link around that subscribe message. Maybe you want to add some color to make it stand out a little bit. There's a lot of things you could do to improve that, but it's reasonably straightforward. And as we can see in here, it literally is just a little bit of text. If we wanted to make it into HTML, so we can add a link, then we could just do this. There we go. I've got my little script come in there. And then we maybe take that to the subscribe page. And we close the link. There we go. Update. All being well, we've now got a link there. That doesn't actually go to a page. I don't have a subscribe page, but that's a good way of doing it. So this is really nice if you want to automatically just inject content into your site that applies over a number of different posts and pages. This is really effective rather than you manually adding that in every time, which can be a bit of a pain. So that's done. Further down here, so if I just scroll down a little bit, we've got different methods on how it gets inserted. So with this one, it's auto insert, so it's going to define at the right time to do it. But we can specify a particular location, and there's lots of different ones here. So it can either, for here, page specific before the post, before the actual content, in between paragraphs, as we've got. There's lots of different things here that might work for you. So that just gives you a quick example of the default plugins that are in there. Let me go through a few examples, then I can show you a bit more detail of how this might work. So let's turn this one off. I am first going to just do something that we do quite a lot, as I said in the intro, insert tracking codes. Often we might do this with specific plugins. So with Google Analytics, we often use a plugin called Monster. However, it seems to do a lot of things that we don't really need now. So I'm more inclined to just add the code we need rather than bringing a whole new plugin in just for that. So if I was to do that, I'd want to add a new snippet here. I want to just add custom code. So I want to start from scratch, but it has got a huge library of other things here. And if you get the pro version, you can start using some of their more advanced snippets, which are pre-written for you. It's a much bigger library, but a lot of this code can be found online. So I'm going to add here, use snippet. I want this to be HTML, which is the default here. And I want it to be auto insert in the header, because that's where the tracking script would need to go. And I've got it here, so I'm just going to copy and paste. Now this is a normal tracking script. It just doesn't have any of the tracking information in. I've removed that, but it will work the same as normal. So one thing I've got to remember is to make it active, because often it doesn't make it active automatically when you save. It will stay inactive, and that can be quite confusing. You might save it and wonder why it's not working. You've got to make sure it's active. So I click Save Snippet. Oh, got to give it a name. Let me call that GA tracking. So I'm just going to copy these X's because I want to search them in the code to prove it's working. Let's go back to the home page. That should have loaded it. So I'm going to bring up the inspector. I'm going to find in the inspector, look for our X's. Here they are, inserted into the script, just as we've got there. And obviously, if I disable that and search again, let's refresh that, search X's, they're not there anymore. So that's a super quick way of adding this code, which I can turn on and off very easily. So I can do it from my list here. I can just turn it on. So that's really useful. It may not be worth adding this plugin just to add tracking codes like that, but if you're going to add one, you might be adding more. And once you've got this plugin, there's loads of cool stuff you can do. So something else we might want to do, something I often want to do, is split up the posts a little bit. So if I go to news here, we can see that we've got one blog post and then another blog post. And maybe I want to put a subscribe message in between. So not just after the first paragraph of an item, but I actually want to put it in between each blog post. So I'm going to do that with another snippet. So let's go add new again. This one again is going to be just add a custom snippet here. I want it to be HTML and auto insert, that's still good. Yeah, let's just let it manage that. And I want it to be between posts. So let me find the option here, page specific between posts. There we go. Oh, you'll also notice here, it's only enabled with Pro, but you can actually have start and end dates. So that could be really useful if you've got, you're either testing something or it's for a certain period of time, like Christmas, for example. Some of our clients want a bit of snow coming onto their website. You could have a code snippet that will just start and end at a certain time. That could be really useful to save you time. You know, just after Christmas, the last thing you want to be doing is remembering which sites you need to take the snow away from. The other thing you could do is if someone has a times message, so some of our clients have a message for changing of hours over Christmas, Easter, and so on, holidays like that. This could be a really good way of adding that in. And actually, if you're doing hours, I'd probably do that with a short code, and I will show you how that works a little bit later. So anyway, we've set this up. We want this code to auto insert between posts. Let me copy in the code. So what I'm going to do first is just keep it simple. We'll put don't, let's actually type into the box. Don't forget to subscribe. Okay, so it looks like we've got everything there. Let me give it a name. I'll make it active and save. And that might be something that's quite useful if you've got multiple blog posts. Maybe they're quite long. On our website, rather inventive.com, we tend to have quite long articles. So having a little break in between could be quite good. You could even use this to inject ads in if you wanted to, if that's how you run your business, and that's going to be useful maybe on the blog post after a certain number of paragraphs or in between ones. Obviously, we don't want to annoy people, so we wouldn't want them too often. Something else you could use is actually, you've got a lot of review sites that give you some kind of code to embed on the reviews you get from that review site, like Trustpilot and FIFA. We've got our own review widget for Sayhola, so we might actually want to bring some of that information on. Now, there's two things that I might find useful here. Is one is the reviews, so I'll give you an example of that, and the other is Sayhola actually gives me the schema or structured data for an organization, which is useful to add on from Google's perspective, because it kind of allows them to understand what are the key details about your business, your name, your logo, address, and telephone number. So let me go through those two examples and hopefully it'll make a bit more sense. Let's bring up Sayhola, which is our review platform. I'm going to log in. I get a very simple dashboard. It's a very simple application, really. It's just designed to allow people to, for you to simply collect testimonials from people in hopefully a fun way. So if I move along to integrations here, I've got a couple of things that would be useful. The first one I want to insert is the schema I was just mentioning. So this is schema. It looks a little bit like JavaScript. It's called JSON notation. And we can see here, here's the name of the company. Here's our link to our website, telephone number. It's actually an old address. I haven't updated it on here. And then various other same as information. So other social accounts that we are related to. So Sayhola has generated that for me, but there's no reason you can't create this yourself. And I can just copy this bit. I can go over to our code snippets. I can add a new one. And I want to call this, let's go custom snippet again. This is just going to be HTML, so I'll leave it on that. I'm going to call this org schema, paste this in. And I want to just insert this in the footer. It's not hugely important, doesn't need to be, certainly it's not important to load first, so we can put it right at the bottom. I think that's everything we need there. Just check my notes. Yeah, got that. Let's set it to active. Save that snippet. Now, with structured data like this, you won't be able to see it on the website. So if I go here and go home, I look at the bottom, it's not there at all. However, it is in the code, and Google, Bing, and other search engines will be able to read it. So if I now go in here and go Command F for find, look for organization. There we go. So it's found some. And there we go. So I've just searched for my script, and here's my script, all inserted. And that's great. So the benefit of this is just, it would be a recommended thing to do if you're optimizing your website. It helps Google understand exactly what your addresses are by, sorry, your address and your locality and your postcode and telephone number are by marking up explicitly rather than it trying to have to work it out. And that helps. It helps Google understand when it sees you elsewhere online, it ties them all up and just helps with its overall trust rating for you. You can also, as I've done here, because Sehola is a review system, it's automatically pre-populated with the amount of reviews we had and the average rating. So it's done that as well. So I've copied it in here, which means that it tells Google what our reviews are. And then Google can choose whether to show that star rating or not. To be honest, they choose not to most of the time now, but it used to be something they would show more. Let's close that. So that's good. So I've added that in, and that's going to be site-wide. If you've got the Pro version, you can actually have a bit more control over the pages. So I can click on here and go page specific. I can actually choose, you can with the Pro version actually choose specific pages that you wanted to show on or not show on. But for me, I'm happy for it to show on all pages. So let's leave that one on, and I'm going to go on to my other example, where I'm going to actually show the current testimonials on there, or just an aggregate total of them. So go back to Sehola, and it gives me two little widgets here. One is a scorecard, which is the one I'm going to use, but you could also, if you wanted to, just copy and paste this little bit of iframe there, very similar to copying a YouTube video. And then you can just copy that onto your site, and what it's going to do is pull live data directly from that site. I use this a lot for clients where they're integrating with other systems. And as I said, YouTube works in a similar way. So if I copy the scorecard widget, we should get something like this appearing on the site wherever I inject that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert this in a slightly different way. So I'm going to add custom code again. Let's pop it in. Give it a title. Review widget, we can leave it as HTML because it is technically HTML. But rather than auto-inserting and just putting it everywhere on the site, I'm just going to put a shortcut, put it as a shortcode so I control exactly where it gets inserted. And this is super useful. In fact, I've used this method on client sites where maybe they've got a booking widget from a separate application. Maybe they're an accommodation provider and they want to insert a booking widget on there. But so we can not have to copy and paste exactly that booking widget on all the pages. And then if the booking widget changes, we need to go and change that widget in lots of different pages. We can create a shortcode like this with a little bit of code in there from the booking system. And then wherever we put that shortcode, it will inject that little bit of custom script. So it's really useful. As it says, we need to save it first before it generates the shortcode. But if I go active and save, it's then generated this little bit of text here. So I can copy this text and just put it anywhere else on Google, anywhere on the website where I can actually paste in text. Super useful. Now, in the Pro version, you can actually make a custom shortcode name, which might be quite useful in terms of understanding what is in the shortcode. But personally, for most of our use, just having it using the default one is absolutely fine. So let me copy that, and then we will inject it on. Where am I going to put it? Let's put it on the contact page. Actually, no, I'm going to put it on the quote page here. No, it was the booking page. So this was an example that we made for the HTML demo. So what I'm going to do is edit the page, and I'm going to put it right at the bottom because I want it there as a little reminder for people who are coming to fill out the form that we are highly rated. So scroll to the end of the form, add, and I'm going to add a short code. I will just paste in the short code into the block there. Let's click update. And we will go to, I'm just going to view that page. Scroll down, and there it is. It's injected that code in. It's injected an iframe. So if we actually have a look at that, we can see that this is the iframe it's injected. So that's actually just loading exactly that same script from Sehula. And that iframe can be anything. We can actually bring in any other website like that. And that's how a lot of these widgets work. They'll just be using an iframe. So that's really cool. That's very useful. You will notice though, if I get rid of this, that doesn't appear on any other page. It only appears on the booking page, which is where I want it. So that shortcode I think is really useful if you want to get a specific bit of code on there. You could use it for the schema. Let's say you had some specific schema that needs to go on a certain page, like for an author, you could inject it in that method. What else have we got here? Oh yeah, my final example is going to be for WooCommerce. So I have created a very simple shop on here using WooCommerce. It's got our club membership, which you can buy. So you can go in there and buy club membership. But what I want to do is maybe I want to inject a little bit of code just here. Now, I could do that by editing the product. So I go and edit the product. There's a small description here. Let's just go to it. So I've got a short description. I could just add my text there. So what did I want to add? Let's call this. Sure to have fun. And then when I save the product, that bit of text will show up there as well. There we are. But what if I want that bit of text to apply to every single product or a subset of product categories? I could do that for each product, but if I've got hundreds of products or even just tens of products, that's going to be a pain. And what if I want to change it? I then have to go around to every single product to change it. So why don't we add this using a snippet? So let me just go and delete that out. Oops, I deleted all of it out. Just delete that bit. There we go. And we're going to view the product. And then we'll go over to the snippet. So let's go here. Now this is where we're going to insert some PHP. So with PHP, because it's programming or the scripting language behind WordPress and how it works, you can break things. You just got to be a little bit more careful. So I'd always recommend doing it on a staging site or if you need to, just a separate page. So we go to add a new snippet. And we are going to call this, we need to add a custom code here. We're going to call this insert before add to cart button. Now, how do we do this? So in WordPress, we've got things called hooks. And what hooks do is they allow us to literally hook into other programmers' code to do things either before or after that action. So when good plugin programmers make their plugins, they add these little hooks in that enable us to sort of hook into them and activate things. Depending on what they've allowed to happen. So in this particular example, I'm going to use what I know is a code called this, WooCommerce before add to cart button. Now, how would you find that? You'd find it by searching for it. So you'd look for something on Google. So we search for WooCommerce. You can do a shorthand like that. Add code before add to cart button. And you're going to come up with various different websites that are going to have code that you might be able to use. Now, you've also got to be really careful with using other people's code unless you know how it operates. So this certainly isn't something you just want to dive into, but it's going to give you hints as to how it might work. And my one's fairly simple. So I can see here that this is going to add an action that will hook into the WooCommerce add to cart after the add to cart button. It calls this function. This is my function. The function just outputs some content. My one's very similar to that. So that's just how you would find these things online. I'm going to go back here and copy in my code. And it says, add action WooCommerce before add to cart button. And then it calls my function, which is here, which outputs this. Now, this isn't an HTML snippet, it's PHP. So let's add it in. It's got nice code highlighting as well. Auto insert, run everywhere. Yes. Now this is important. We want this code to be running all the time because this action will detect when it actually needs to operate. So it's going to sit silently in the background, and only when this bit of code is running and it calls for this action, will this jump in and do its job. So have I got everything set up there? I have. Let me make that active, save. And all being well, it's now added that just before the basket. And if you want to add that after the basket, you just need to change this. Yeah, after. Now, I actually don't need to change my code here because this is the actual hook that I'm interested in that is going to then run this script. So I could change this script for neatness, and I should really to make sure it makes sense. But in terms of demonstration, I'm not going to do that. Update. Run it again, and now it's popped beneath it. So that could be really good. And this is going to happen site-wide across all of the products. You could put either filtering in here to do that. You could have some more advanced coding that's just going to pick it out in certain categories of products. But for me, let's keep it super simple. And that's just a good demonstration of actually adding additional script into the site, particularly when you don't have access to the theme files themselves, or you just want to make little changes that you can turn on and off quite neatly. So that's just a very short demonstration of WP Code. I think it's a really useful little plugin. Definitely worth checking out. Certainly if you want to do a little bit more than just adding in tracking codes, I think this is a really good system that you can have some fun with, and enabling you to customize your site in a way that might be difficult otherwise. So hopefully that was useful to you. And thank you very much for watching this episode of the Inventive Marketing Club. You can learn more like this and find other great episodes, or you can even join us at ratherinventive.com/club. That's ratherinventive.com/club. Bye for now.